All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to week number 11. That is right, week number 11 of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Alston. And what we're going to do today is a quick state of the course update. And then after that, we are going to learn about three basically job guidance resources that you would often use when trying to help people determine whether or not careers are going to be viable, whether or not fields are viable. Also, when you're dealing with high school students and like college freshmen, these databases come in handy for students who are doing like job essays or career or vocational essays, okay? So we're going to talk about three things, two of them being databases and one of them just being the standard Bureau of Labor Statistics website that the federal government uses. And puts out, so yeah, the federal government puts out information data stats on the BLS.gov, Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov website, and so that is also useful for when you're helping to direct people on career guidance paths. And again, that includes largely in my previous experience, I would help people who were looking to determine what types of jobs they were trying to pursue after after incarceration sometimes, but usually it was high school students or underclassmen in college. So when I say that to say that this is another database that has relevance in academic libraries, public libraries, and K-12 libraries, okay? So these are resources that you're going to want to be aware of. And again, I'm just giving you kind of an introduction to them. But if you really want to master these resources, then what you need to do is after getting your introduction from me, you can try to practice with these resources. And then also you can look for tutorials on these resources online, okay? But let's get into that state of the course update right now. Also, just real quick, I am going to say you'll probably notice this tape that's on my glasses. Yes, my lenses broke, or one of my lenses broke, and so I am going to have taped up glasses probably for the next month. So hopefully you all are not going to be too distracted by the sight of that. Okay, let's go ahead and get this. Let's go ahead and get into our state of the course update. And really, you need to mainly know three things. We don't have anything big on the horizon this week, okay? So continue working on those semester-long projects. Hopefully you've been working on those for a few weeks now. Some of you may have been working on those and the LibGuides during spring break. Some of you probably not. Whatever, it's all good. But yes, keep working on those semester-long projects. Next Wednesday, we will have a sync session. Next Wednesday will be April 10th. We will have a sync session, this time with Dustin Koopman, who is the head of security, coordinator for security for the Mid-Continent Public Library system in the Metro Kansas City area. And he's going to do a presentation just on de-escalation within the library space when you're dealing with problem patrons, okay? He is a former law enforcement officer, so I say that to say that he is somebody, who has seen a lot. One thing I bring up every single semester is that somebody actually asked him one time, what do you do when you catch a patron masturbating in these stacks? And he didn't miss a beat when telling people what to do. He said the first thing you do is do not break eye contact with them. And then he went into a bunch of other things. He's a former child sex crimes investigator with the sheriff's department, I believe, in Nebraska. So tons of law enforcement experience, knows these types of situations and is not overwhelmed by them. So he's a good person to learn a few things from, okay? So we'll be speaking with Dustin on April the 10th, and because we will be speaking with him on April the 10th, there will not be a check-in video next week. The other two things that you need to know at the moment are that you do have next week, next Sunday, actually. So 2 weeks from, I'm recording this on March the 31st, and you're going to is going to be accessible to you on April the 1st. On April the 14th, so basically 2 weeks away, you will have to turn in both the LibGuide and your discussion board prompt number 6. Okay, so be aware of that. Some people, because we have fewer discussion board prompts in this course than we do in some other courses, some people do kind of forget when the discussion board prompts are due. So again, you do have one coming up that's due on April the 14th, and that is going to be the same day that your LibGuide is due. So make sure that you are aware of both of those things. All right, now let's get into those resources I was just talking about. All right, so again, we're doing the intro here, and hopefully what I will be able to accomplish is, again, keeping this under 30 minutes. By the way, you can and probably should speed this up. But again, hopefully unsped, I will keep it under 30 minutes, which will be 25 minutes of this portion here after the check-in video. So the first thing that I wanted to show you, actually, let's show you... yeah, let's do Ferguson's first. Ferguson's is actually more important. We're going to be talking about Ferguson's Career Guidance Center. We're going to be talking about Gale's vocations and careers, and then we're going to be talking about the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But let's talk about Ferguson's first. Ferguson's first. Alliteration. I love it. All right, so this is the homepage or the landing page for Ferguson's Career Guidance Center, and I am accessing this through Mid-Continent Public Library, not through Zoo, because again, this has public library relevance. There are a bunch of features that you can find here, including, for one thing, I actually did not steer people to the Prepare for Your Career portion here very often, because there are so many other resources that you can use in order to do that. So as far as writing resumes, writing cover letters, interviewing, networking, and workplace skills, yes, you have that information here, and that can be useful. However, you will find some of this stuff in Learning Express Library. Most libraries have a ton of books on resumes, cover letters, and that sort of thing, as well as workplace skills. And then also one thing that you probably want to do is actually talk to professors as well, or your colleagues, if you currently work in a library, as far as interviewing, networking, and workplace skills. Sometimes those things just are best delivered by other human beings directly to you, okay? So I don't use the Prepare for Your Career very often, or I didn't use it very often, but that doesn't mean that it's useless. The Finding a Career, again, this is a lot of stuff that you can find on Indeed or Monster or that sort of thing. So I wouldn't worry about this too much either. A lot of times things like Indeed and Monster are actually more pertinent to what librarians and people who are trying to secure librarian jobs are trying to get. Indeed and Monster can be very, very helpful for those searches. And then also, depending on if you know specifically what state you want to work in, a lot of times the State Library Association, their website will have in-state jobs. And I was trying my best to stay in North Carolina for a long, long time. And so I know that the North Carolina Library Association, they have a ton of things on their website, but so too does the Missouri Library Association, the Kansas Library Association, and other library associations by state. Planning your education can be useful, but that's not going to be the focus today. I did use this at different times, however, and so yes, when you're trying to find the right school, financial aid, education opportunities, that sort of thing, distance learning, these can be useful. And on second thought, we might as well go into the school search really quick, because there can be useful information here as well. So when you go into the school search, you do have about close to 4,000 results, undergraduate, graduate, and vocational. And you can search in various methods, including location, institution type, tuition, blah, 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 blah. And I am, but what I don't like about this is it doesn't, to my knowledge, just have a free-form search within the school search, which is what I would like within the filters. However, I am going to put my alma mater in here, my undergraduate alma mater. I had a undergraduate, master's, and PhD, so I have 3 alma maters, but we will focus on the undergrad one, which is the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. So I can put that in, I can search, and then I have a school profile here. I'm going to go with undergraduate. And so if you go in here, again, there can be useful information. You've got the overview here. and then you can get this out of the way. So this, of course, is going to be most useful for people who are either high school juniors and seniors getting ready to go on to college, or it can also be useful for community college students who are looking for their next opportunity, or it can be very useful for students who are intending to transfer. Okay, but again, so you start out with this overview information here, and that can be very useful. Public UNCW is a public institution. Total enrollment almost 18,000. There is on-campus housing. I lived on campus all 4 years. Tuition for the non-resident is close to 20,000 per year. Oh, yeah, what's that? Okay, get off my screen. They do offer more than just bachelor's degrees, but because I clicked on undergraduate, I think that's why the focus is bachelor's. I do think that if I went to the graduate profile, then you would see some of those other things. Okay, undergrad retention 82%, which is actually pretty good. You have gender breakdowns and that sort of thing. And then as you scroll down, you will see a list of majors. So you can decide if the major that you want is there. Again, you've got your costs, curriculum requirements, faculty. That's very important. So you've got a student to faculty ratio of, I don't even know how to read that. I don't know what that is. So I apologize. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But you've got over 750 full-time faculty and then close to 500 part-time faculty. Campus life, you've got all these various things going on. You've got a health clinic, you've got freshman parking privileges, so that can be very helpful because freshmen can't park they can't park everywhere. Security, that sort of thing, co-op, honors program, yes, all these things, yes. They used to have a freshman honors college when I was there, but I guess they've done away with that. Or else maybe that is incorrect. Sometimes there are errors. You do have high-speed internet in the housing, and believe it or not, we actually had that back when I started school back in 2001 is when I started undergraduate school. Some of you probably weren't even born then. Here are your applications and that sort of thing. So freshman applicants, they accepted a lot there. But the reason why the total enrollment isn't that much larger than this number is because not everyone who accepts actually goes on to attend the school, if that makes sense. You got your waitlisting information there, application fees, yada, yada, yada. Admissions, these are the various sort of percentiles and things for your standardized tests and all those sorts of things, and then the athletics that are offered. So that can be very useful. I do wish, and some of you may disagree with me on this, but I do wish that the race and ethnicity stuff was also included here, but it is not. But I do think it is important to know what you're getting into, because I'm a black man who went to a school that was almost entirely white. UNC Wilmington is almost entirely white, and there were some struggles that I had with that. And I did know going in that UNC Wilmington was almost completely white. I didn't have a problem with it at the time. I didn't have a problem with it when I was a high school senior, but then it became an issue later. But I say that to just bring it back and say that those racial demographics and the racial climate on a campus actually does matter. Anyway, let's go back now to, we are going to focus mainly on these two things here: research industries and browse professions. You can, there is a career assessment test. And there are resources for finding your specific career path, but we are not going to get into those for the sake of time. However, research industries and browse professions are the things that I use the most. So if you select research industries, then you're going to be brought to this page. You have feature industries, which are the industries that you most often see people trying to get into when, or that you have the most people actually trying to pursue help and get information on. So things like law, computer software, business, education, these are the major things that you have a lot of people trying to get into. Nursing programs are the bread and butter of a lot of community colleges and that sort of thing, okay? So you have your feature industries, but then you can also go, you can also go to all industries, because those were certainly not all the industries there. But you can scroll down here and kind of look around here, and you see these various industries within architecture, construction, and then various trades. Within, I think librarianship is somewhere. Is it? Within education, you will see the library and information services. Let's just go ahead and go there so that you can kind of see what's being said about this and what's being said about us. All right, so the library and information services, first of all, when it comes to browsing professions, once you land on the industry, if you want to, you can select related professions, and they will include some of the related professions within that industry, and those include library directors, database specialists, law librarians, library and information science instructors. That's me, and that's pretty much where I am with my median salary and all those sorts of things. Exhibit designers, children's librarians, so you have all of that there. Let's go back into the industry profile though, so that you can see the information that is in the industry profile. So what you can do, you have this table of contents here, and what you can do with the table of contents, you see this, you start out with the overview, and then you can toggle this to the next thing. As you can see, background is the next thing here, and you can toggle the background there. However, I'm just going to go ahead and do the full article now. And so now we are on the full article, and you can just basically scroll down. First of all, if you do need to save it, you can do that here. Sharing, you can do that here. Citing and reading aloud, you can do that. All right, so again, you see this when we've got the full article here, you've got the overview. And the overview just is what gives you the overview information, basically. So this gives you the introduction. It's the information that you're going to need to kind of determine whether or not you want to read any further. So that information is front-loaded, kind of like an abstract maybe. And so if you decide to go further, then you can get some of this background information. And the backgrounds tend to be in a bit more depth. So you will see some of the historical setup. It's not an exhaustive historical setup because nobody really needs that unless you're a heavy-duty researcher. So you got the historical setup right there. Then you can scroll down for structure, and how structure basically, excuse me. So basically when you're looking at an industry, because again, we're still on industry, it's basically when you're looking at an industry, you will see that, for instance, with libraries, you have people go to library school to become librarians, and then they have options to go into K-12, or they can go into college or academic, or they can go into public libraries, so forth and so on. And so you see all of these various options within here, as well as some of the other special libraries, law libraries, and that sort of thing that people also land in. The industry outlook, however, is your most important thing. The industry usually is your most important thing. I shouldn't say it's always your most important thing, but usually your most important thing is your industry outlook, and that's telling you whether or not the career is growing, or the career, whether the field is growing or the field is shrinking, or whether or not the field has a lot of threats or opportunities. So basically looking at your SWOT analysis there, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can kind of discern all of that information within an industry outlook. And one thing that I do want to say as an aside is that I did, because some of you probably experienced this as well, I did have a whole bunch of people saying, when I was thinking about going into libraries, I actually first thought about going into libraries my senior year of undergrad. I ended up being a reporter for a few years, but a newspaper reporter. But before that, I was considering going to grad school, getting my master's in library science. And I had a bunch of people telling me, no, why would you do that? The libraries are going to be obsolete. I had one of my youth minister from the church that I attended when I was in high school. She was like, now I think what's going to happen though is this degree is going to be worthless, because what's going to happen is people are going to sort of get their books the same way they're doing Netflix and that sort of thing, like get them through the mail or something like that. Because back then Netflix would send you like movies through the mail. But no, those people never looked at the industry outlook, and the industry outlook had always called for, or at least in my lifetime, it called for the library and information science field to actually either stay level or experience small growth. And that is indeed what has happened. We have lost some jobs, don't get me wrong, we've lost some jobs, but the outlook as far as career opportunities within libraries is, I wouldn't say it's as strong as any other field, but certainly we are doing better than a lot of fields that people try to encourage me to consider instead, including newspaper journalism. So there you go. So the outlook is the most important thing. And then if you want to learn more, then you have library lingo. Oh my, CD-ROM is library lingo now. I'm old enough to remember when CD-ROM was not specifically library lingo, but that's where we are now. And then resources and associations. That's the last thing that you're going to have here. And ALA, of course, is the big one. But you are going to have things such as ASIST and the American Association of Law Libraries and that sort of thing. ARL. BCALA, where I'm the vice president, is unfortunately not listed there, but oh well. Maybe I can petition them to list us. So you have that information there. And so that is basically how the research industries looks. And we are going to browse professions now really quick before we go into the Gale resource. So if you wanted to browse professions, you've got the featured professions here, and most of the featured professions are going to be things where the job outlook is positive. So statisticians, data scientists, nurse practitioners, wind industry workers, that sort of thing. Job outlooks are good there. Job outlooks for surgeons, though, interestingly enough, are kind of level. I doubt they're going to they do have some things that are going down. So stock clerks, that job outlook is going down, and that doesn't really look like a stock clerk to me. So not the greatest picture there. And yeah, astronauts, yeah, that doesn't surprise me that they're going down. But then you can go to all professions. And so then you have them listed alphabetically because you have about 1,200 results. And we can again go into our librarians. Oh, but you can, by the way, if you wanted to, you could apply these filters. So you have industry filters, education level filters, and so forth. So let's do the master's degree filter, and then let's go to L. All right, and that's going to take us to librarians, and librarians does have that little nifty little intro video, so that's something that can be useful. So some of these have a brief video, as you can see here. Well, that one's not that brief. It's actually 15 minutes long, but some of them do have this brief video that you can kind of watch to get a little bit of information there and a little bit of overview. So she's going to speak about some things. I'm not going to play it, but if you needed her to, she could speak to a few things for you. And so then you have that nifty little table of contents over here again, but I'm actually, again, going to do the full article. And so when you do the full article, your contents are here. You get that overview and you get the quick facts. Salary, of course, is always a big one. Duties, alternate titles, skills that you're going to need, licensing that's required, which usually is the master's degree minimum level. For most states, you do need the master's in library science to be a credentialed librarian. There are a few places where that's not the case, but mostly that is the case. You've got a nice historical setup there. So if somebody's doing some basic research, and needs the history, they can go there. This will tell you what the job is, and this is citable information. Earnings, you can scroll on down, so you got that earnings and what people can expect to make. So we're not a very great paying occupation by any means. We don't pay great, but we don't pay poorly either. Okay, it's kind of like middle of the road kind of pay, but you won't go hungry most of the time if you're a librarian. Work environment, most librarians do work between 35 and 40 hours per week. If they're full time, but approximately 20% of librarians are part time. You can see that right there. And then you've got these other things, exploring the job, what your educational requirements are. You've got that. Let's keep scrolling. You've got certificates and that sort of thing, licensing. So I'll explain that. The experience you need, employment prospects is the big one. That's another big one, I should say, because salary is also a big one. But yes, approximately 134,000 librarians are employed in the United States, myself included, and you all included, hopefully most of you. Now, I do want to also pause and say that one unfortunate thing about this career field is that people are not always able to get professional librarian jobs when they finish library school. A lot of people stay in paraprofessional roles, but I do hope that all of you, if it's what you desire, that you get a professional archivist or professional librarian job if it's what you desire. And I was able to get them, and I am glad for it, very thankful. So this will tell you some of that. This isn't quite the Outlook area. So this is like prospects, but we will scroll down and get to Outlook in a second there. So you've got employment prospects, you've got advancement prospects, and this will show you how those things go. The Outlook is something that you do want to pay attention to. And employment for librarians is expected to grow about as fast as average for all careers through 2028, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. So that is good news, and I guarantee you the people who told me not to go into librarianship because librarians are going to die, they did not look at this information first. They were just basing it off, oh, I don't go to libraries, so libraries must be irrelevant. You have to watch out for people like that. Okay, and then you've got unions and associations. There are a lot of library associations, and then tips for entry and learning more. So all of that information can be helpful, and you can get this for an assortment of different jobs within over 1,000 jobs in various industries on this database. Okay, let's go ahead now and go to the Gale database. Pause. All right, so now let's say that you have students that actually need to, oh man, I'm getting stuffy. A little allergy work undoing me here, but it's not too bad. Vocations and Careers by Gale. This is another one that you're going to want to have in your toolkit. And this is for when people are it's usually for when people are writing papers, okay? It's usually for when high school students or college freshmen are writing papers or community college students are writing papers about careers that they want to go into. All right. And what you can do really, there are other things that you can do within this, but again, to not belabor this video too long, because we are going to go a bit over 30 minutes, so I hope you did speed it up. But in order to not belabor this too long, excuse me, what you can do is you can go to, really it works just like a lot of those other databases do that you would use in order to find information to write papers. So let's say that you have this advanced searching here, and let's say that you wanted to, I'm actually going to do subject, but let's say you wanted to do dental hygienist. And that's just one of my go-tos because the community college that I worked at, a lot of people were trying to go into dental hygienist work. So you can put that in and put that as your subject, click search. And then when you do that, you will see that as far as subject, if we left this a keyword, there would be many, many more results, just so you know. But for when you do it as a subject, these things are actually about the dental hygienist's work, and they have been cataloged that way. You're only showing 1 academic journal article, 7 magazine articles, and 5 news clippings. But again, for a lot of those freshman papers, that is actually going to be enough. They can get all the information they need here. But one thing you do have to worry about is that some of this information can be pretty dated. So you see there 2000, 2005, and so forth and so on. In fact, let's see what we get with newest first. Oh, Lord, the newest one was 2005. So, yeah, this actually didn't go very well if you did want your, 1985. Okay, so, yeah, we went pretty far back there. Let's actually go back. Let's see if we can do this as a keyword and see if we get more. So, one thing, you'll get a feel for how these databases work. So if you leave it as a keyword, first of all, let's see if we've got things that are newer. Let's hope so. Yes, and then we've got 2021. 2014 is still pretty old, but we're getting a little better here. But these things may or may not be specifically about dental hygienists. Again, this is the keyword search. They may or may not be as helpful as the subject searches, but you do have more academic journals here, and so that's very helpful. Okay. All right. And as you can see, these academic journals are also newer, 2024, 2022, so forth and so on. So that's how this works, and that's mainly what it's used for. And then you can do the topic finder and that sort of thing. But again, I didn't use those very often, and I don't know that many librarians do. So we're not going to belabor those, and we're going to go on to the next thing, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics is, the way to access it is bls.gov. You can access it there. You'll be brought here. This is the home page. And then what you can do is, again, let's look for librarians. All right. Now, there are other things, there are other ways to search this, but I'm not going to get into that. Again, if you really, really want to have an exhaustive knowledge of this, then go ahead and look at some tutorials and that sort of thing, okay? But what I would do with Bureau of Labor Statistics is if somebody told me a career they wanted to go into, and let's just use librarians, then what we can do is go to librarians and media specialists for the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which again is very useful and kind of has some repetition with what we saw with Ferguson's. But yeah, so you get your summary information here first, and then you can click to these other things as far as what they do. Work environment, you have the tabs up here and you have the options down there. But the summary information is what a lot of people are going to be looking for right off the bat. Median pay in 2022, which is very recent, is $61,000. But this is nationwide, so keep that in mind, because a lot of times, like, $61,000 is not a lot of money if you live in New York, but if you live in Warren County, North Carolina, where I grew up, if you make $61,000 a year, you don't have to worry about anything at all. Typical entry level education is the master's degree, work experience in another occupation. You don't necessarily need that. On the job training, I don't like that they put none there, because really most of your training within the libraries is going to be you kind of being an understudy, but you'll get a fuller description of what they mean by by on the job training by clicking that question mark there. And then once you get past this overview, employment change, I believe that is an increase they're expecting of about 4,000 jobs between 2022 and 2032 in that 10-year span. Now, you will see some professions where this number is negative, and that means that the job outlook is going down, as opposed to this one is 3% growth. If you saw negative 3%, that would be shrinkage. And then what you can do, again, you can use the tabs or these things down here, but you can, if I use the tabs, then I can get more information on the pay, and I can get a sample citation there. Job outlook, pay and job outlook are usually what people are going to be looking for, but also you all already know how to become one. You go to library school, that sort of thing, and then you can get breakdowns for state data for some of these careers as well. So if you want to learn more about that, and there's a lot more that BLS.gov does, you probably do want to at some point really learn what that website does, because the government puts a lot of great information on that site, and that is information that you will have to pull up every now and then. Okay, so that is that. I'm just giving you the overview, the superficial overview, and you can get into more later on your own. So with that said, I am Dr. Jace, and we are more than halfway through with this race, because we are in week 11 of a 15-week course. And I'll see you next week, but not in a check-in video. I'll actually see you in class. Don't forget about your discussion board. Don't forget about your LibGuide, and don't forget about your semester-long project. Take care. See you next week.